you're an Index user, you know how big of a deal that just was. No wire, baby.
Hello and welcome to another Wednesday Newsday, your number one resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. Today, we've got a very special news day with in-person first impressions of the first consumer wireless Valve Index, but it's way more than just that. We're looking at potentially the end of cables for VR entirely. V43 for Quest 2 has finally dropped, bringing the end of Facebook accounts, new full-body tracking shoes are on their way, and SteamVR gets a buggy update. All that and so much more, let's just get right into the news. Let's start this one off with a very interesting new piece of full-body tracking technology, Surplex's tracking shoes. Announced earlier this week, these shoes aim to bring cheaper and easier to set up full-body tracking to more people without needing to set up base stations or buy Vive trackers. And I think if you've watched this channel for any period of time, you know I absolutely love full-body tracking, and I think it's going to be a huge step in the future for immersion and gameplay, but it's not exactly an easy problem to solve. The best quality full-body tracking, like I said, requires laser tracking and a full set of Vive or Tundra trackers. But there have been quite a few other cheaper solutions like SlimeVR or Harator X that don't require any base stations, only using IMUs to approximate tracking position. And this is where Surplex's full-body tracking shoes are quite a bit different. Instead of relying on an array of IMUs throughout your legs, these shoes use 240 flexible pressure sensors in each shoe, as well as an IMU in conjunction with a deep learning algorithm. This works by taking the input of weight by the pressure-sensitive sensors to predict where the body is based on where the weight is being distributed along the shoes. Surplex says this results in 360 degrees zero blind spot, zero drift full-body tracking, but in their only demo video, I can already see drift and a lot of latency, which has me pretty skeptical. For one, there's no hip tracking it seems, so good luck sitting or laying down, and I'm also concerned that the pressure-sensitive shoes, while a good addition to something like SlimeVR or Harator X, just don't allow for enough nuance in a lot of full-body tracking scenarios. But either way, Surplex is launching a Kickstarter sometime in the next week. They just haven't mentioned price or ship times. But hopefully, we'll also get a new demo video because honestly, this isn't very impressive from a technical standpoint compared to the competition. And if the price is anywhere close to Harator X or SlimeVR, I just recommend going down that route anyways. But now we can talk about the fun part. The very possible end of cables for VR forever. I have been a big fan of the Valve Index. Even 3 years after its launch, it's still my go-to PC VR headset. But there's one big downside to the Index, resolution or age aside. It's a tethered headset requiring a cable to be used at all times. And to be fair, I've gotten pretty used to it, even found roundabout solutions to solve most of the problems, but I will be the first to tell you that wireless is just better for VR. And to be fair, Gabe Newell did say 3 years ago that wireless VR was a solved problem, but apparently not because that never happened from Valve. So now, years later, a company has finally developed a wireless adapter for the Valve Index. But this is way more than just a wireless adapter. The guys making this solution, Nofio, stopped by the studio as part of a worldwide tour to demo this to dozens of people, and not gonna lie, I was pretty skeptical. I think if you've been around the VR scene long enough, we've all seen companies come in with big promises, then never deliver or even take money flat out. But I was really surprised. This is an early engineering unit of Nofio's wireless adapter, and they told me that the final unit will be about half the size and half the weight. The best part though is that besides a few bugs that the Nofio guys are working out, there was practically zero perceivable latency. Using a custom Wi-Fi 6E antenna that will come with the unit and their own streamlined video codec, they were able to get latency below 1 millisecond as low as 500 microseconds, which is by far the best wireless VR solution I've ever seen. And this is in a totally different class of wireless adapters than the old TP-Link or Vive WiGig adapter, and it doesn't have some of the downsides of AirLink. For one, you don't have to be in line of sight of the antenna like with Vive solution, and two, the latency and image is pretty much perfect. No compression artifacts, no visual glitches, besides a small bug that Nofio knows about that occasionally dropped a frame, but it's something they said will be fixed. And it was really weird being wireless with the Index for the first time. After spending thousands of hours in this headset, being able to walk around and do cartwheels and spin around was amazing, and puts a whole new lease on life for the Index. It's pretty surprising how modern the Index still feels when you cut the cable out of the equation, but here are some more details answering some of the biggest questions before we get to the really exciting exciting part. Nofio's adapter will be battery hot swappable, and you could use just about any power source you want, meaning it's not necessarily limited to the 2 hours of advertised playtime. Also, the USB on the front of the Index was still functional, allowing a full set of Tundra trackers to be ran with a dongle. And something pretty surprising is that while it did get buggier, I did technically run it at 144 Hz. It is capable of it. But like I said, this is an engineering sample and it was pretty heavy on the back of the headset, but they do say it will get a lot smaller before launch. I just want to see that, you know what I mean? But it should be shipping out early next year, launching a Kickstarter for the project in the next week for the steep price of $399, which is expensive and kind of a kicker, but it kind of makes sense. And if you're wondering why this is Index exclusive, then this part will also answer that. The Index is right now the most popular PC VR only VR headset, so it makes sense to be targeting the Index. But they do plan on bringing support to other headsets in the future. And they also stated they're working directly with Valve to eventually be an officially supported accessory on Steam. But Nofio isn't just making a wireless adapter. Their goals are to be the wireless solution for the entire industry for high-quality VR headsets in the future, looking to license their technology to essentially a chip that can be put in any headset. Similar to Tobii eye tracking or using an XR2 CPU, it would just make way more sense to use Nofio solution and custom video codec rather than every manufacturer make their own, and that's because Nofio's solution is actually that good. And they've got a lot of resolution headroom. They can go way higher res than the Index. And this really could be the end of cabled PC VR headsets if this solution is actually utilized and licensed by other companies. There's really no excuse to launching a headset with a cable unless you just want less bulk or less price or don't want to deal with swapping batteries, because the image quality and latency are better than I was expecting and they're almost imperceivable from just using a cable, except I could do this. So I'll definitely be watching Nofio closely. Like I said, their Kickstarter should go live within the next couple weeks, and this really does give the 3-year-old Index a couple more years of life. And some people may say it's too little, too late, and for way too much money, but at the same time, you could either side grade your headset from an Index or just get this and use your Index for another 2 years. But the real story here isn't that the Index is getting wireless. It's that Nofio is using this to get their foot in the door into a pretty exciting future of high quality, low latency wireless PC VR. And if you do have any questions about my experience, leave them down below. I'll treat this like an AMA. And this definitely was not a full review. I only got a few hours with an engineering sample, but I was really impressed and I'm excited about their future. But now it's time for a meme break. I don't know whether I should be offended or start clapping, but this meme pretty much just summed up 70% of the VR community in like 3 seconds. And now, back to the news. The highly awaited Quest V43 update is finally rolling out, officially dropping the requirement to log in with a Facebook account on Quest. Now you can optionally add Instagram or Facebook integration, and all existing Oculus accounts will be, quote, evolved into a Meta Horizon profile. And although you will no longer be required to have a Facebook account, you are now required to use this new Meta account, which makes sense. This account is a lot closer to something like a PlayStation Network or Xbox Live login. It's not exactly the same as a social media account, even if people will tell you it is. Although I'm still interested in actually reading this privacy agreement, but we'll see. Missing, however, are the public test channel features that were supposed to come in V43, including 16:9 aspect ratio recording, along with other recording options that we saw last week. Hopefully those will come, but honestly, compared to how much attention Meta has given smaller updates than this, it kind of feels like they're sweeping V43 under the rug. Not sure why, maybe it's because of this. But in terms of hardware stuff for the Quest 2, a new accessory has really caught my eye. Probably one of my favorite features on the Index, besides the mic and field of view, are the awesome near-field speakers that come on it. For VR purposes, they're kind of perfect, off-ear, and they sound really good. But just this morning, Logitech announced the Chorus, a $99 set of Quest 2 speakers that attach to the head strap that look remarkably similar to the Index and its built-in audio. The Chorus has, quote, big open-back audio drivers and also have pass-through USB-C, so you can charge or use the battery bank or even link with the speakers. And this is something I'm really interested in. I haven't really found a Quest audio solution that I like a lot, but this just might be it. Available for pre-order, and if I like it, I'll definitely be making a video on it because this is pretty much what I've been wanting for a long time. In other headset news, it looks like we're having a bit of an attack of the clone situation.
Hello there.
Just recently, Lenovo announced a new standalone VR headset under their gaming line, Legion, the VR700. This is Lenovo's first VR headset in a while, and it's standalone, which is cool, but their other notable headsets counterparts were the Lenovo Explorer and the infamous Oculus Rift S. This company kind of has a weird history of making VR hardware, but this is one of the first times they're making a headset without a partner. We still really don't know every detail, as the full reveal isn't until a day after this video is up, but it is confirmed to have the same XR2 processor as the Quest 2, SteamVR capability, inside-out tracking, and a 4K resolution, which is actually just 2K per eye. It's pretty much the Quest 2's resolution, likely using the same panels. And this is pretty likely to be a China-only release, as a lot of these headsets are. And there's just a really weird thing going on in general. Like, 3 manufacturers cloned the Quest 2 almost exactly in China, and then like 6 more manufacturers cloned those clones, which is what this appears to be, but we'll just have to see. Maybe it'll get an NA or a Europe launch, we'll see. SteamVR just received a buggy update, as Road to VR states. People are constantly looking into every new addition to SteamVR to check out leaks of future VR hardware, and what people recently came across was a very weird addition. Models of CT scans of dead bugs that were found lying around the Valve office. This update came alongside some actual bug fixes to the Quest 2 controller jitter and grip trigger animation fixes, but in general, it's just a very weird update to officially add CT scans of dead bugs. I don't know. Valve explains that these were a sort of experiment to bring massive CT scans that could be gigabytes in size into a simple 3D model that could be viewed in VR, which is interesting. Also, the gameplay that you're seeing throughout this video is a game that I luckily got early access to called Altair Breaker. I booted it up with relatively low expectations, but ended up playing it for hours straight, so I figured I'd talk about it as well. The game launches tomorrow on SteamVR and Quest, although to be honest, if you have an Index, it really is not the best experience. It's a really fun game, but it's clearly made for Quest. There's no finger tracking, and Quest controllers even pop up when you're not using a Quest. But even besides that, I did have a lot of fun, and the core gameplay loop of clearing levels co-op with other players and jumping into the air to slash enemies was super fun. So if you're looking for something to play, definitely give it a try. Figured I'd mention it. But now on to question of the week from HaloFall. Who do you think will be the first community to have a game accepted as the metaverse? And to be honest, I don't think a single game can really live up to the name metaverse. That's kind of like in 1995 saying, what game do you think will be the internet? Of course, we have games that are super future thinking like VRChat or Second Life or Neos, which I just made a whole documentary on. You should definitely check it out. But really, the idea of the metaverse is a little bigger than any one of those. However, if there was ever something even close, I'd say it would have to be a persistent user-generated social platform that is cross-platform AR, VR, smartphone, console, social media, with games all within this platform. So like imagine a VR chat mixed with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and more, but also available on more platforms. Kind of weird, but yeah. And that was question of the week. Make sure to leave your own down below, and I may just answer yours next. Come hop into my Discord server for an awesome VR community, and thank you, Thrillseekers, for 600K. We're just getting started. I also want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. I couldn't do any of this without you. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.